Utah is off to a good start with snow and drought conditions are improving, while Las Vegas continues to implement new restrictions against lawns. Also, don't be surprised to be paying more for fertilizer and grass seed this year. This is the Cherish Each Moment podcast. Happy New Year! I hope everyone had a great Christmas and holiday season and a good New Year's Eve, and that your New Year's is off to a great start. I had a few days off of work, which was nice. It's a good time to get all the Christmas decorations put away and kind of get everything cleaned up. Does anybody else feel like their house, at least on the inside, seems like it's a little bit bigger once the Christmas tree and all the decorations are put away? I definitely do. It's a really nice feeling. It's nice to just have everything put away in general, inside and out. I know Alan Haynes been making a big deal about people who keep their lights up past New Year's. Have you seen his content on that? I thought it was really funny. And what's worse, there's people that keep them on at night past New Year's. So not only haven't taken their lights down, but they still turn them on at night. I have a couple neighbors like that too. So if you really want to push Alan's buttons, now you know how to do that. Just keep your Christmas lights up past New Year's and keep them turned on at night. Just keep the timer set, let them rip, take pictures of it, send them his way. I decided that I would add some floodlights to my Christmas setup this year. I had a red one and a green one. Actually, I think I had two red ones and a green one. They looked really nice. I was really happy with them. And I decided what I was going to do after I put all of the Christmas lights away and took everything down. I decided that I was going to make the floodlights a permanent addition to the exterior landscape lighting. So I went over to the local Lowe's and got some bulbs that matched the floodlight bulb that I have on my American flag at night. So I have 3 of them now, all the same. Swapped out the red and green ones for these regular ones, and it looks great. And I've still got this tiny little spotlight that I got too. I think I'm going to repurpose that as well and shine it on the fountain to give the fountain a little ambient lighting at night. I think that'll be kind of nice. And I think it will just add a little bit more character to the exterior of the house. I've always felt that our house was just too dark at night. There's a couple of exterior lights, like there's one by the front door on the porch. There's one on either side of the garage door, and then there's one around the side of the house. As you walk along the pathway into the backyard, there's a light back there. And they do an okay job, but I felt like those lights only lit up half the front of my house, and I felt like there could just be more. So the floodlights are in, and we've been adjusting and kind of tinkering with them. And I think we're about to a place where it feels okay. Feels good. Definitely looks a lot better to have more light across the front of the house. The one side just felt so dark. I drive up to the house at night, and I can't see anything. And so looks-wise, security-wise, overall improvement, I have to say. So if you're looking for something easy and fairly inexpensive, a couple of floodlights on your house, Highly recommend. They work really, really well. I want to do a quick update on our snow situation. We've had a couple of snow events here, and I think there's some more on the way. I was just up in the mountains for New Year's, and probably maybe about 45 minutes to the east in the mountains, and there was a good 2 to 3 feet of snow up there. I haven't seen that much snow in the mountains in a long time. It was beautiful. A lot of snow. We sure need it. But I recently learned from local news sources here in Utah that our snowpack at this point in the season is 130% above the 20-year average for most of the state. That's really great news. Really great news. Our drought conditions are also improving significantly too. I just learned today, in fact, that the extreme drought level that we experienced last year has been reduced from 79% to 34% across the state. So only 34% of the state is considered to be in an extreme drought level, which extreme drought is still a big deal. We're not even close to being out of the woods yet. But we're taking a pretty good step in the right direction here. So I'm really hoping that we can continue to get solid rain and snow events through the rest of these winter months. It was warm enough today. I think we saw 50 degrees today. The high today was 52, which is nuts considering 4 days ago the high was like 15. Welcome to Utah. But it was warm enough today to melt all of the snow that was just sitting on everybody's lawns. And it was the first time I've seen the grass in several weeks. And the stripes are still holding strong. So good. I love it. So things are going well. It's January already. We're wrapping up the first week of January. Can you believe it? 2022. Looking forward to a good new year. Lots of things planned already. I can't wait to experience the stories that I'm looking forward to sharing with you both here and on the YouTube channel. It's just going to be a great year. So lots to look forward to. Got a couple things to talk about today. I'll be right back with you. So, speaking of water updates, Las Vegas is banning the installation of grass for all new housing and commercial developments. This came out just before Christmas. Merry Christmas, Las Vegas, and all you grass fans that still live there. I grew up in Las Vegas, if you didn't know that. I lived there until pretty much leaving for college. My family moved out there right before the housing boom out there. We moved out there when I was about 6 months old, so probably late 1989, early 1990 they moved out there. So having grown up in the Las Vegas Valley and being interested in staying up to date with water conservation strategies in the western region in general, to the best of my ability, I'm always curious to see what other cities and states are doing. I've got a quick article here talking about this change, and it's a pretty quick article. So I just want to go ahead and read it to you really quick. This is from ABC News. Las Vegas. Grassy yards would be banned at all new housing and commercial developments in the Las Vegas metro area as officials try to expand water use limitations, and the region prepares for a hotter and drier future. The Southern Nevada Water Authority passed resolutions on Monday to prohibit the yards and the use of evaporative cooling machines, also known as swamp coolers, at the new developments. Swamp coolers are used by many people instead of traditional air conditioners, but they use more water. The move builds on current limitations for water use in the Las Vegas region, which is undergoing strong growth. They must be approved by local governments to go into effect. Southern Nevada Water Authority General Manager John Enstminger told the Las Vegas Review-Journal, "We're taking some steps that I'm unaware of having any precedent." The new measures expand on water use limits already adopted in the Las Vegas region, including a ban on front yard grass, a prohibition on grass being planted in more than half of a backyard, and a ban on, quote, non-functional grass in office parks, street medians, and entrances to communities that have homeowners associations. Officials have enacted the measures because of widespread acknowledgement that the region will soon have less water to provide to homes, businesses, and farms, and so development for anticipated population growth can be accommodated. Grass can still be planted at schools, parks, cemeteries, golf courses, and in existing housing developments. Lobbyists for developers and commercial real estate opposed the new limits proposed by the Water Authority, arguing they needed more study. Southern Nevada, which includes the Las Vegas region, relies on the overtapped Colorado River for about 90% of its water supply. California has implemented some similar limits on grass and water consumption, and Arizona has paid farmers to fallow fields. There you go. Pretty interesting, right? So one other thing to keep in mind as well is that depending on where you live, in at least Southern Nevada, if you still have a lawn, not only do you have pretty strict guidelines, especially for the most part, when it comes to watering. We're going to talk about these watering guidelines in a second. I don't think they're all that strict. I think they could be much more strict. But they will pay you to get rid of your grass completely. Now, I've talked about this before. My dad took this deal back in the day, and he told me he got something like $1 a square foot, something close to that. The last I checked, the going rate to get rid of your lawn in Southern Nevada is triple that, at $3 a square foot. That adds up pretty quick. So if you live in Southern Nevada, it's getting much harder to keep a real lawn on your property. To be honest, if it was like that where I live, I would very seriously consider moving. That's probably not a surprise to you to hear that. My involvement in this community has become such that I require, I dare say demand, but I'll stick with require. I require the ability to grow and maintain a decent-sized lawn. And if I couldn't do that, then I couldn't stay there. Now, what, you ask, is a decent-sized lawn, in my opinion? Obviously, everybody's got different factors and variables into their own definition of a decent-sized lawn. For me, I would say nothing smaller than 5,000 square feet. I would want at least 5,000 square feet of maintainable grass. Otherwise, see you later. Just can't do it. I think 5,000 is a good even number. Not too big, not too small. Can handle it really easily. So just out of curiosity, I wanted to do a little bit more research here and get a little bit more information. So I reached out to a friend of mine from high school. His name's Zach. He still lives in the Henderson area, and he's a lawn guy. We reconnected a while back, and I've chatted with him and helped him a little bit with his little backyard fescue lawn that he's been going on here. He only has grass in his backyard per these rules, and it's only about 500 square feet. Most of the housing in the general suburban area of Las Vegas, there's some developments where you have some really like nice property, big property, but for the most part, in like your just regular neighborhoods, pretty small lots, super tiny backyards, and a lot of them are even smaller than super tiny. So the fact that he can pull off 500 square feet of grass is pretty good. He's doing a great job with it too, by the way. Sends me pictures during the season. He's been renovating it a little bit. He's done a really good job. Anyways, he confirmed all of this new information to me that I just read to you, and he provided some additional insight on the watering rules. And this is where it gets interesting. So before I break this down, I just want you to keep in mind that the Las Vegas area is in the transition zone. So you've got a mix of cool season grass, primarily fescues, and some warm season grasses here and there. But this is the watering rules here, and I'll post a graphic of this on the YouTube channel. This is straight from the Code of Ordinances. Winter they define as November to February. November to February. You get one assigned day per week. Now keep in mind, that's an assigned day. If you get caught watering on a day that's not your assigned day, you're busted and you're fined. I think it's a little harder for them to fine you these days because nobody has grass in their front yard anymore. And if you do, you're old school. You've been there a while, and you just haven't taken the bait to get rid of it at $3 a square foot yet. But if you get caught watering on a non-assigned watering day, you get fined. And I remember growing up, I would see people driving around in city vehicles patrolling the neighborhoods, looking for people watering on the wrong day. So they're serious about your assigned day. So that's winter, November to February, 1 day a week, which is totally manageable. You can get by with no problem. Spring is March and April, and you get 3 assigned days per week in the spring, in March and April. Which, if you live in Las Vegas, March, April, you're already flirting with 100-degree highs. So to hear 3 days a week there, I think is fine. I think that's great. Summer, they define as May to August. And it says you can water any day you want except Sunday. Any day you want. That means you can water 6 days a week. No problem. Now, I said in the spring you're already looking at 100-degree highs. In peak summer, it's not uncommon to get up to 110 plus. But that doesn't warrant the need, in my opinion, to water every day. I think people probably take advantage of that. Fall is September and October, and you go back to 3 days per week, and that rounds out the year. So the days are specified for each group by each city. They decide which days you get. It's usually based on your address. So when I saw this, my first reaction was that this is much more generous than I expected. It's been a while since I've lived there. My parents have since moved away. They've been up here for several years now. So I don't really have as much of an ear to the ground on things like this as I used to. And even before my parents left, they had no grass. It was all river rock, just dry scaped. And so it's been nice to kind of get a little bit of extra information from Zach here. I'm willing to bet, like I said, that the majority of people with any kind of lawn in peak summer can keep it green with no more than 3 waterings a week. Remember, summer, they said you can water any day except Sunday. You don't need to water your lawn every day. I don't care where you live. You can keep a lawn green, especially if it's warm season, because it loves that. But even with fescue, I'm just gonna think on the fescue track here. 3 days a week, max, any time of the year. Even when it's 110 degrees outside, you can keep your lawn green with no more than 3 waterings a week. And that's a half an inch of water each time you water. So 1.5 inches of water total per week will keep your lawn green. And if you want to add in some extra strategy to that, like I've said before, you can plan ahead with your fertilizer applications. Make sure you're getting a good, healthy amount of potassium down. Make sure you're driving strong roots. That will take phosphorus. That will take micronutrients. You can also supplement with root zone moisture management products like Hydrotane. No problem keeping the lawn green with 3 waterings a week. And I'm also willing to bet in spring and fall, you can probably even get away with 2 waterings a week for the most part. And I would bet my bottom dollar in the weeks in winter where you only have 1 day a week. I bet that there are some cooler weeks, and I know that there are some cooler weeks because I've lived there. There's cooler weeks in the winter where you can skip watering altogether and just wait till it warms up. Just keep an eye on the lawn. Once you start seeing signs of heat stress, you know that you can water it again. Let the lawn tell you what it needs. So at least with this information, it's pretty clear that there's still room for improvement as far as conservation goes. And I say room for improvement just because I know people are, I don't want to say abusing it because I'm sure a lot of it's in ignorance. But there's a lot of people watering more than they really need to. Even within the realms of these current schedules and allotments here. I really believe that. I really do. So no doubt that more drastic steps mentioned in this article are saving a bunch of water. These steps that I just read, that's what I mean. These steps are saving a bunch of water. I have no doubt about that. But if they wanted to dial it back even more, they totally could. Should they? I don't really think that's my decision. I think more time and effort and resources could be spent on educating people that want to have grass, how to do it themselves, let them do it themselves, teach them how to do it. But if they really wanted to, they could dial this back even more, restrict it even more, and you could still maintain a green lawn for the most part. I just talked about how you could do it. So one of the biggest highlights for me in that article is that last bit that says, officials have enacted the measures because of a widespread acknowledgement that the region will soon have less water to provide to homes, businesses, and farms. And so development for anticipated population growth can be accommodated. So this stood out to me because obviously population is a big factor in all of this. And that makes sense. They're looking ahead. They're trying to plan ahead. They're trying to allocate resources because they know that they're still experiencing a lot of growth in the area, and they want to be able to provide for all these people and businesses that are coming there. Well, that concerns me because Utah is in a very similar situation. Utah is growing super fast as well, especially this area that I live in here. So it's interesting to note the patterns and kind of see the correlations between different areas that are in similar circumstances, because what they're doing there isn't out of the realm of possibility to what they can do here. So it also says that southern Nevada, which includes the Las Vegas region, relies on the overtapped Colorado River for about 90% of its water supply. So the majority of the water, the extreme majority, 90% of the water that you get when you're in Vegas comes from the Colorado River. So I want to break this down really quick. I think this is cool to look at. One of the biggest tributaries or suppliers of the Colorado River is the Green River. And if you pull out a map and you look at the Intermountain West area here, you look right at the Four Corners area. You look at Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, right in that region. You'll find the Colorado River. It's the big one. But if you look right on eastern Utah, you'll see a river that runs kind of north-south called the Green River. It starts up in western Wyoming, and it comes down eastern Utah. It's Utah's mountains, for the most part, that feed the Green River. So if Utah doesn't get snow, well, you can see how that affects not just Utah, but everywhere that relies on the Colorado River for its water supply. Pretty big deal. So looking ahead for the new year, just getting ahead into 2022 here, looking down the road, I want to tell you, don't be surprised to see price increases across the entire spectrum of all things lawn related. Well into last year, I was already hearing rumors of the price of grass seed increasing, and no doubt that'll happen. Some seeds are going to be hard to find as well. Ryegrass especially, I think, is going to be the most difficult grass seed to find on the market. And that alone is going to make it one hot commodity. So if you do find it and you really want it, you're going to really pay for it. And the sad thing is that if you want to stock up, it's already too late. The last time I bought grass seed from my local supplier in the fall of 2020, they told me that they had sold several million pounds of ryegrass seed to the Scott's company. So Scott's, for sure, and I'll bet other companies as well, took advantage early on. They forecasted this. They saw this coming, and they got ahead of the game. So what does that mean for you? Obviously, it means that the companies that have the product have a lot of it, or at least a lot of what's available, and they're going to take advantage of that. So don't be surprised if you see higher prices. There was shortage of grass seed production over the last year or so. Not as much as normal was harvested because I think it was not because of the virus, but I think it was because of different weather patterns or something like that. I'll have to go back and look, but less grass seed was harvested, so less grass seed is going to be available this year. It's going to be a little harder to get, especially if you want specific varieties. So just something to keep in mind when you're planning a renovation for early spring or fall. You want to get ahead of the game as much as you can. But with the current supply chain issues, manufacturing slowed down over the last couple of years. It's not going to be as easy as it once was to get materials or equipment or other things. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this. I think this coming lawn season is going to be most affected by that. I don't think we saw as much of it in 2021 as we will in 2022. So you're going to see price hikes across the board. Your favorite companies are consequently forced to raise their prices to keep up with this. Don't let this come as a complete shock to you. Support them as best as you can, especially the small businesses. They're the ones that are fighting the good fight out there. So plan ahead with however you budget for this season. It's going to be starting right before we know it. And I'll tell you what, I cannot wait. Oh, it's going to be awesome. Can't wait. That's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of the podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Look forward to cherishing more moments in 2022. See ya.